Good afternoon, and welcome to our FREA conversation. It's Wednesday Wisdom, and we're talking a little bit about all things long-term care, elder care, and things like that. My name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisor, and today, before we jump in, we have a little housekeeping that we want to take place here. All participants are in a listen-only mode, and what that means is, it's unlike a regular Zoom meeting, you won't see yourself, but if you've got a question or a comment, feel free to drop it into Q&A or into chat, and we can answer that. If it's something specific to you, we'll probably type the response back. If it's something that the whole group can benefit from, we'll pause and we'll have a conversation about that particular topic at hand. We record all of these sessions, so especially this time of year, getting close to the holidays when we see our friends and family, and then this particular topic regarding long-term care and elder care, once we get this recorded and post it out on the website, you'll be able to review that, pull it and share it with friends, things like that, because this conversation is best had with your spouse, with your loved ones, with your children, to talk about this topic now before something happens and you don't have an opportunity to discuss it as well. You'll also notice this QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner. Just grab your smartphone, have it available to you. We'll talk about how you can get information a little bit later there. So grab a pen and paper today. We're going to get rolling. We're going to go through a lot of different topics today. Some great special guests are joining us to share with us a little bit about how to communicate as well and draw in new members that way. So before we do that, I want to bring on Ann and Edwina and Harriet, who got to spend some time in my backyard a few weeks ago with their peers all across the country at our annual roundup. So Ann, love this picture with you and Brisket here. And tell us a little bit what the governor has signed into proclamation.
Thank you, John. Well, first of all, thank you for reminding me of the Texas Longhorns name, because I have the wrong name in the bulletin. I put Chuck because I couldn't remember. So I will change that to Brisket. Thank you. We are on November 20th celebrating National Retired Educators Day. It is a proclamation that was issued many, many years ago. The first governor that issued it was Lawton Chiles. Everybody remembers Walkin' Lawton. And he was the one that issued this decree. It is available now on the website for sharing with your units or with friends and family. And you can download it, or if you wish to have a hard cardstock copy of it, we're more than happy to mail you one from the FREA office. And I am going to stop right there, John. Thank you again for Brisket's name.
You're very welcome. Like I said, I'm so happy that the three of you got to come down and join us and your peers all across the country to find out ways to grow associations. And our topic today that I want to introduce you to Gretchen Ellison, who is the president of the Miami-Dade Retired Educators Association, is going to talk on some things that really, really fall in line with how to grow your units, how to communicate with your units. So Gretchen, thank you for joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself real quickly and tell us a little bit about your associate, your unit, and then we'll jump into your presentation.
Yes, I am. As you said, Gretchen Ellison. I am president of the Miami-Dade County Retired Educators Association. John, thank you so much for inviting me, you and Ann. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy that this is the webinar that I'm actually participating in, because your topic today is also something very dear to my heart as well. So I want to just get right into it. You want to change the slide? Thank you for showing our website on the first page. I want to talk about getting connected. And I know that most of the units are connected now to the internet and so forth. But I do know that there are some units who are shying away and staying away as far as they can, for as long as they can. But I'd like to just show you today some of the things and the perspectives that we are doing in Miami-Dade. So with our partners and our community, stay connected with prospective members as well. So the first way we get connected is with the email blast. Now, the email blast is something that you want to send out if you need, and it's the fastest way to get a message out, or even a notice, a newsletter, or greeting out to your entire membership or whoever is in your contact list. So the email blast, we're all familiar with, but remember, this is not something, the kind of email that we're going to send to a friend or to a coworker. This is a special, professionally done email that goes out to your population. Next up is social media. I know many people hate that word, social media, but we have embraced in Miami-Dade the Facebook page, and it has been so beneficial to us. Particularly, it's the best way to share with the public because many public folks are not going to get your emails, so they won't know what's going on. So it's the best way to share with the public at large. You want to share your activities, any announcements that you may have. And the biggest star on Facebook is, well, our photos. Photos are the best thing to have on Facebook because those are the things that get the attention of people. And those are the things that people love to look at to see what you're doing. They want to look at your special moments and they like to browse and see what you're doing. And also it allows your members and others to stay connected with you because remember, Facebook even it's just like kind of like the email in a sense because it's a two-way communication. They talk to you, we talk to them. So they can share their ideas and thoughts about what you have shared. They can like it, they can comment on it, they can even share it with their friends. So Facebook is that way for the public viewing. Also, we're sharing our mission, our brand. Many times people have no idea what our mission is, no idea what our brand is, but Facebook is a perfect way to do so. And the third way that we're being connected is with our website. All three of these types of communications are very different for very different reasons. The website is the best way to gain credibility with your organization or your mission and with your membership. Think of how many times you had to say, oh, I'm the president of this, or I work somewhere with this. And the first thing someone's going to say, do you have a website? Because they want to see if you're really a legitimate person. Even if it's just your hair salon or your nail shop or wherever you go, people want to see that you're legitimate and they want to go to a website and to see that it's also very current and it looks legal and professional. And those are the three ways that we are communicating with right now in Miami-Dade. You can go to the next slide. Okay, I know that this slide looks a little overwhelming, but one step at a time. With the three types of communications or connections that we're talking about here, remember we talked about the email blast, the Facebook post, and the website page. Now, when you're talking about the email blast, like I said, you're not talking about a little 3 words conversation with a coworker or a friend. You're talking to members, you're talking to partners, you're talking to school board members, special presenters, and FREA staff. So, or any other, or your district folks. Now, you think of an email that's just going out to your members and your partners, but think of all these other people who could benefit for some of the things that you put out in an email. Like an email can go out, you want to talk about your newsletter. Your newsletter is your brand. It's what's going on. It's telling everybody what you've been doing. It's telling everybody where you're at. So why don't you click on the first link of my example of my November newsletter, John, if you can.
All right, let's see if it'll go there. Is it showing on the screen or do I need to switch it?
You probably need to switch it. You clicked it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Let's see if I can share it here.
There you go. So we know that we voted in November. So we made that a very big accent point for the beginning of the newsletter. We wanted everyone to vote. We had 2 links. We had the link for Dade County voters website and for Broward County because most of our partners are in both counties. You want to scroll up? Just kind of peruse it a little bit. You can stop there. The next 2 things you see where is our next meeting, where it's going to be, and what's the topic of all of the things that we're going to talk about and the great things you'll get if you come to the meeting. We had a free delicious buffet. We was at a beautiful place. a perfect setting. And we also give the opportunity in the newsletter for people to RSVP. So they just select, yes, I'll be there, or yes, I'll be there and with the guest, or it says, I'll see you guys next month. So that gives them the way. The next slide up, you know, we talk about membership. We started a toy drive. That was the kickoff information. And then we'll do follow-up information later about the toy drive. Then scroll up. This year, we're doing the next picture. We're doing something very special for our scholarship donors. And then I put that information there. Scroll up. I talked about the District 10 conference, what happened there. And also I put in the bulletin information about the legislative update. Now, if you see where it says information services, I try to put these little links in here so people that's not, you know, they're just interested in little things. And so happened, the second link was get to know your AMBA benefits. And all you have to do, all they have to do is click on there. It goes straight to the benefits, upcoming meetings, meet the board, all kinds of little tidbits that people might be interested in through the newsletter. And of course, I had on there November 21st, but I'll correct that when we do the Facebook page. And just a couple of other things about voting, and scroll all the way down. And that's the end. That is our November newsletter. And it encapsulates a lot of different things we're doing. It invites them to our meeting. So it's something that they can get information from as well as participate. And we're asking for something, and many people click on to get that information. So you want to go back to the slide. And a sample of a meeting reminder. That's quick. It's not as long as the other. If you could do that one. So remember, in the newsletters, we always do the meeting information. Now this is from October. So after the newsletter goes out, about 1 week before the meeting, I'll also send a meeting reminder for the actual meeting. So then if they forgot, if they didn't RSVP, they can do it there. And this tells them a little bit more about what the meeting is going to be about. It's just a quick and dirty nudge to remind everyone. Because oftentimes people may select something and say, I'll be there, I'm gonna go, but then they forget. So you kind of have to remind folks, and social media is the best. Email blast, Facebook, they're perfect ways to remind folks, you remember you were coming to the meeting, and so forth. And the next one is just a greeting that we use to, that's just an example when I talked about, remember all of these are email blast examples. Okay, this was ways to celebrate National Hispanic Heritage Month. So this was one way that we had beautiful ways to support our Latino businesses, and we told them how, we share with them ways you can do it. But in the same sense, and we gave a nice quote from Dolores Huerto about every moment is an organizing opportunity. Every person, a potential activist. Every minute, a chance to challenge the world. So it's just little things that you want to do to show your appreciation to the community and that you're there for them. Okay, let's go back to the slide. You're doing a great job, John.
You give good instructions.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, now for Facebook. Now you want to see the difference in your audience. Remember, the email blast is something that you got a nice professional information that you want all your members and partners to see. However, Facebook is just a little bit different. You have to be a little bit more entertaining when you're doing Facebook. They're looking for ways to something for you to get excited about. And like I said, photos, that's the star of Facebook. So go to our Facebook page and let's scroll down and see a few things that we have there. So you try to be a little bit more, and I put the last the last one was the meeting for today. So you scroll down just a bit? Okay, that was a notice about Veterans Day. Keep going, just do a quick perusal. That's our toy drive. Now this one, if you go down just a little bit, yeah. Now this one was for our last meeting that we talked about on our November meeting. Now we put up 20 something pictures. This got so much activity. You can see there just says 12 likes or 12 likes and loves. However, I get the data. If this were my page, I could see the data because I'm the administrator. We had over 1,500 looks at this particular post. It doesn't reflect so much there, but we know it, that how many people were seeing us having such a great time. And in the comments, I don't know if you can see it in the comments, but in a couple of the comments, someone said, oh, you guys are having a great time. I wish I can join. So right then I sent the link as a response to them how to join. And then someone else says, I'm a member, but I've never gotten a notification. And then I responded, well, send me an email to this address and I'll put you on the mailing list. So it's a way that people who thought they would love to be at this event couldn't because they didn't have all the information, but Facebook now brings them to us and we were able to connect with them. And even if we were bringing in 2 or 3 or 4 members just by this one post, it was worth the idea to have the Facebook page. So those are the kinds of things you'll see on our Facebook page. So we like to put a lot of nice pictures about what we've been doing. And most people say, oh my God, these are friends I haven't seen in so long. And it's such a great place to do those kinds of things. I haven't put up many videos, but I do plan to at some point put up some types of videos. But that's how the Facebook page, and that's from the district meeting, that's from another meeting. So those are the kinds of things that get very good feedback on our page. Now let's go to the website. Back to the slides, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. We talked about your population for emails. We talked about being entertaining in the Facebook pages. Now for your website, this is where you want to be more professional. This is where you want to get your credibility. This is where you want to show who you are, what your brand is, and get in serious members. So you can click on and then this is where you're going to say what you're about, what's your mission, what kind of projects you're having, what benefits, and how to join. So this is the front page. This is the home page. It has a message for myself. It has the way to connect with us on Facebook. It tells you right up front what's your first meeting and our special project for the year. And a couple of pictures, I believe they're at the bottom of this scroll. And if you can click on Meet the Board right under my name. And there we are, the friendly faces of the Miami-Dade County Retired Educators Board. Very credible, wonderful, hardworking people. And when you see those folks, you want to work with them. You want to come and join. Why don't you go to our next link? I believe it's meetings and events. Always try to keep your web pages current. There's nothing worse than having a page and nothing's current there. And people will, once they see old dates or it's not up to date, people get off right away. So as you see, it shows our next meeting and future meetings, and everybody can save the date. It even tells you the date, where it's going to be, and what's the topic. Okay, so you can go to the next one. And you could click on the bottoms for more information on those. Those are our handy dandy links that people, if you've missed like a newsletter, they're there. Our links to our partners, any legislative documents we have, and any miscellaneous resources like presentations, all kinds of things are there for our members and viewers. And the next link. So we try to keep it as current as possible. This is our scholarship information page. We have a local scholarship called the Carol Cortez Future Florida Educator Scholarship for our college graduates. And this is how to apply for that. You want to keep scrolling. Then of course we have our FREA scholarship links. We have the 5th grade. We have pictures of our last scholarship winners. And then we have ways for you to donate. And we also have information about funding that we are giving for teacher certification tests. And the last slide that I want to share with you is I'm sharing with you a typical month of sharing. This is a sample connection schedule. And for example, you'll see you don't share everything on every platform. So, and you don't want to overwhelm people or overshare. So for example, we sent out the toy drive information, but that will go on the email, Facebook, and the Facebook and the web page. Veterans Day, we'll probably just send that out through Facebook. Happy Florida Retired Educators Day on the 20th. We'll send that out through Facebook. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll probably send that through email blast and Facebook. December newsletter, moving ahead, will go to all of our platforms. And then the December reminder will go through the email blast and probably click one more time and go to Facebook. So that's basically it. And that's what we're doing in Miami-Dade based on connecting with everyone. I think I got it in just enough time.
Thank you, Gretchen. I appreciate it. Like I said, phenomenal stuff there. Love what you're doing out there. If someone wants to get a hold of you and find out how they can do that, would you mind putting into chat how to get a hold of to make it reach you that way as well? So thank you for sharing about what's going on down there. Thank you for joining us. My name is John Green. We're the Association Member Benefits Advisors. We're going to talk about long-term care. I live a little bit north of Houston, and I'm going to share with you a little bit why I'm so passionate about this situation in just a moment. Just a quick reminder, FREA is out there to watch over your pension, to help preserve any cost of living adjustments that could be coming your way, keeping you connected. And Gretchen showed you how Miami-Dade stays connected. Phenomenal things that they do there. And then to partner with different partners like AMBA as well to create exclusive benefits, discounts, and things of that nature. We serve over 1 million retired educators across the country. We have 3 leaders there in the state of Florida that can help you out with their agents as well. Just a quick reminder, we have a wide variety of benefits that we work AMBA through FREA that can cover things that aren't covered by your benefits, that when you left the school, they're portable if you move out of state for whatever reason. And you can also extend your benefits to members of your family. We're going to talk about long-term care today and this whole concept around elder care and kind of demystify the myths and facts surrounding care and the need for long-term care protection. We're going to break down and give you the components of a traditional plan. So many of individuals on the call today already have a plan, and we're going to kind of walk through what a traditional plan looks like and then show you some options that are out there today and show you kind of what the costs are in Florida, because they're all across the board for care being taken care of in a long-term care setting. But before we do that, to help me kind of understand who's on our call today, I want to do a quick poll launch and ask if you currently have a long-term care plan in place. If you'd answer our poll, it's totally anonymous, and that will help me inform me who's on the call so I can direct my conversation in that direction. So we've got about half the group has already responded. Let's go ahead and wait just a few more seconds. All right. Last call. 3, 2, 1. All right, we are all across the board, and this is going to be great. So we've got about half that have a plan, The other half that don't, we've got a couple that aren't sure. That's okay. So it's going to be a good conversation today to help you make your most of your options, but also more to give you a sense to know what peace of mind is out there and what's available to you. And this is why I do this conversation, why I feel so passionate about it. This is a photograph of my father and I at his memory care facility in Austin, Texas, back in July of 2020. It was on his 81st birthday, and this was the last time that my father remembered who I was. He passed away later that October from vascular dementia and complications related to that. And I got to see the last 2 years of his life, how his long-term care policy worked, what was good and not so good about it. I learned a ton about the long-term care industry, about nursing homes and all that. So it really informs how my conversation is going to go today. Hopefully will help you. Again, if you've got questions, drop those into Q&A and we can answer those as we go along the way. Real quickly, and for many of you who may have been in schools when you were teaching, back in the early 90s, there seemed to be a huge rise in the number of long-term care policies being purchased. It could be either through a group plan, through your school, like many of you possibly bought, could be an individual policy that you have as well. And all the way up to the early 2000s, we saw a pretty steady increase. Well, companies started to realize that it started costing a ton of money to care for people because they were living longer. Alzheimer's became much more prevalent. People were living longer, so it got very expensive. So insurance carriers started raising rates, tightening up on their underwriting guidelines, meaning it made it more difficult to qualify. And as a result, we started seeing a significant decline of number of policies purchased each year. But things didn't change. There's some good news and there's some bad news in this situation. The good news is advancements in diagnosis and treatment mean life expectancies are up. We're living longer because we're catching things earlier, and there's so much more variety in the way that we are cared for. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go forward. On the flip side, however, and you see it in Florida, we see it down in South Texas as well, as we age as a population, the need for care goes up, and therefore the cost goes up too. And we have smaller family care pools, for lack of a better term. I think about my grandparents. All four of my grandparents were one of 7 to 10 kids. And so if somebody in the family got ill, whether it be a parent or a brother or sister, there was always somebody in the family. And Ann has this situation with all of her brothers and sisters up in Michigan. Somebody could always go check on mom. Somebody could always be take care of mom. Well, we have much smaller families now. So there's not as many family members to take care of each other. And then insurance policies started getting very restrictive in their language. Medicare has made significant changes, and we're going to talk about that as we go through here. And so coverages, premiums started going up, costs started being stretched out. There's much more burden shared upon individuals. And then COVID-19 hit. And when COVID hit, my father was in a facility outside of Austin, and access for my stepmother, my brother, and I was very limited. What I also found out was that many of the memory care facilities and many of the nursing home facilities shared critical staff members, physical therapists, program specialists, things like that. Well, when COVID-19 hit, you couldn't share those individuals. You couldn't move them around from facility to facility. So the cost went up because they had to hire more people for that. And so government regulations have really driven up the cost as well. And so here's where we find a lot of FREA members, a lot of individuals out there right now, that if they have a pre-existing policy, which half of you do, they're starting to see some increases from their carriers. And some of them are pretty sizable. Some of the carriers may come back and say, hey, we're willing to give you a level premium, but we're going to reduce your coverage. Or by the time that somebody needs coverage, they've got a very large elimination period. And we're going to talk about elimination periods in a moment. That puts a significant strain on somebody at that time they need the coverage. Now, they found that a policy they took out many years ago when they were an active educator may not fit what the current needs are or what the future costs are going to be if they do need something like that. And then we find, and I got a really sad email a couple of weeks ago from a retired educator in Texas that she couldn't get the care where she wanted because her policy language was very restrictive. And she wanted to be cared for in a facility that was kind of a high-rise, well-to-do facility. because her husband was healthy, but she needed care. But the way the policy language worked, it didn't provide for that. So you see that some of these old policies are pretty restrictive in getting care where you want to get care. But what hasn't changed through all of this situation is that 70% of us, once we reach the age of 65, are going to need some form of extended care in our lifetime. Now, that extended care may just be for 3 months after a fall, or it could be for the rest of our lives, like my father for almost 2 years. And so you don't know when that's going to happen. You don't know, but the overwhelming majority of us are going to need some form of extended care in our lifetime once we reach age 65. So I want you to grab a pen and write some of these things down, because these numbers do mean things. They're important to you. They're important to know, because you can craft your long-term care plan, whatever that looks like, based on some of these numbers that are out there. And these are a combination of government numbers, industry numbers. The average time that someone lives in an assisted living facility is 28 months. Now, assisted living facility is kind of that in between your home and a full-blown nursing home, where you're able to kind of take care of yourself. You have your own room, your own apartment, so to speak. 59%, so close to 60% of all the people who started out in an assisted living facility will ultimately move to a skilled nursing facility. And so that means that there's a greater cost going that way. And the average length of time that someone stays in a nursing home is 2.2 years. Men much less, women a little bit more. So again, you can see if you're a female, if you're a male, you're planning for your situation, how long you may need to prepare for. Alzheimer's, if you've got Alzheimer's history in your family, I met some people that were in my father's first facility, 5, 6, 7 years with Alzheimer's. And so if you've got a history of that in your family, you may want to prepare for longer, because the length of time that you stay in a facility could be longer there. But the number that jumps out to me, and I want you to write down the number 100 on a piece of paper somewhere, because we're going to come back to that in a moment, is that almost half of all individuals who go into a nursing home stay less than 100 days. And it's not because they pass away. I'm going to show you what that is in just a few moments as we go through here. So I'm going to give you some numbers. I'm going to give you some different things to write these down, because they will become important at the end. But let's look at, for those of you, the 50% of you who have a long-term care policy or a long-term care plan in place, let's go ahead and kind of break this down into a good hamburger. So we're going to build a good hamburger. This is what a good long-term care policy looks like. To have a hamburger, you've got to have buns, and that's what really qualifies as a hamburger. To trigger your long-term care policy to start to receive benefits, you have to have the loss of activities of daily living, the ability to bathe yourself, wipe your backside, dress yourself, feed yourself, continence, transferring, things like that, getting in and out of bed, in and out of a chair into a wheelchair. Most policies, once you lose 2 or 3 of those activities of daily living, you can start to claim benefits. Some policies are a little more restrictive, some are a little less, but usually it's 2 activities of daily living. The other trigger that could be a benefit is a cognitive impairment. In the case of my father, so we're talking dementia and Alzheimer's. In the case of my father, when he got diagnosed with dementia, he could still do all of his activities of daily living, had no problem doing those things, but he had difficulty cognitively. So either one of those, either a cognitive impairment or the loss of activities of daily living, triggers your benefit. And then your benefit, your meat of your hamburger, is either a daily benefit amount where they will pay you directly or to your nursing facility or home health care facility provider a flat dollar amount per day. Some policies had a pool of money. So you either had a daily benefit amount that says you're going to get paid $300 a day, or you had a pool of money that says you can pull from this pool up until you run out of money. And that's that length of coverage. So in a pool of money policy, once you run out of money, it's over. In my father's case, he had a policy that gave lifetime coverage, meaning that as long as he was living in a facility or as long as he was needing care, it was going to pay. Some policies have a 3-year benefit, a 5-year benefit, something like that. You saw with the numbers a little bit earlier, the 3-year benefit may be enough to care for everything that you need. Just know that the longer your benefit, the more expensive the policy can be. Then as we're building this hamburger, we have an elimination period. And I know all of you in Florida are very familiar with your hurricane deductibles or your named storm deductibles. The elimination period works just like a deductible on your homeowner's policy. It's the amount that you have to pay out of your pocket before the insurance company provides coverage. And in the case of long-term care plans, usually it's 90 days. So you have to pay for your care for the first 90 days, and then the policy comes in and provides coverage from that point on. The longer that elimination period, the less expensive the policy is. But again, that's more burden on you to pay for that coverage there. Then you start to get into your extra topics about location of coverage, inflation protection, and non-skilled services. Some policies just cover in a nursing home. Some will cover in a nursing home with a reduced amount of coverage for care in your home. And then some will cover home, nursing home, and assisted living facility. So really encourage you to review your policies. Let someone look at your policies. We'll show you how to do that in a moment as well. Inflation protection. Many policies came with an inflation protection automatically built in that said you would get an increase in your coverage every year at 3% or 5%. Some policies, and again, this is why I encourage those of you who have a plan to get it reviewed. Some policies gave you the option of increasing your benefit every 2 years. But if you decline to increase your benefit 2 times in a row, you lost that option in the future. So it's very important to understand the inner workings of your policy. And then some policies have provisions for non-skilled care. In the case of my father, how that looked was in his early stages of dementia, he could do everything that he needed to do to take care of himself. The problem was he would get up in the middle of the night and wander off, or he would get up in the middle of the night and pretend to be an electrician, which he's not trained to be an electrician. My stepmother still worked, so she hired a non-skilled individual, meaning that not a licensed nurse or a vocational nurse, didn't need to be, but someone who could stay up at night to make sure that my father was not a flight risk. And his policy paid for that. Some do, some don't, but it's important to understand what's available to you out there and what could be in your policy. So those are the components of a traditional long-term care policy. We're going to walk through some needs here in a moment and then show you some other alternatives depending upon your situation. But let's talk about, first of all, about what extended care is. Extended care used to mean you would get sent to a nursing home facility. Fortunately, that's no longer the situation. A lot of times it's care in your home. It could be care in a nursing home, like my father received, a long-term care facility specialized around his memory care situation. Or there's this hybrid, this assisted living community that allows you to be in a community, participate with the meals, the activities, things like that. But if you need some light housekeeping, or if you need some help with cooking or bathing or some physical therapy, something like that, that could be some coverage for you that way as well. So extended care is pretty broad in what that meaning is out there. And just as broad as the need and the opportunities out there is the coverage that's available for that. In fact, there are some facilities across the country that are centered around church organizations, fraternal organizations. There's a one in Central Texas that is all just for retired teachers. So you can even find communities. You're very familiar with the senior communities there in Florida as well. So they're all over the place, and there's quite a range of expenses and services, but sometimes a good long-term care plan will cover that expense as well. And when it comes to paying for care, and we're going to get into this a little bit more in depth because it has a great impact on multiple generations. Most people pull from their personal savings, or they ask for assistance from friends and family. Those are the two biggest ways that people pay for their extended care. Others enter into the Medicaid program, and I'm going to talk briefly about that because it's really not an option for individuals who are on a pension. And then we'll talk about extended care coverage. It's a way for you that you've worked all your life to have someone else pay for your care, but you have control in how you're taken care of. And that to me sounds to be the best way. And I was very thankful that my father had a plan, because he was probably the most healthy individual that I ever knew. Ran college track, all stayed in 3 sports, growing up in high school, played basketball competitively into his mid-60s. And then a small series of strokes started the downturn that we never knew where it was going to end and what happened to him, because we don't know what that future is going to hold in store. As we get older, we're not able to do as many things as we used to do for ourselves, and you don't know when that's going to happen. And then one thing I noticed with my father when I'd go visit him, I would notice people that were younger than me. And I was in my early 50s when he went into his nursing facility. And I would ask some of the nurses or some of the technicians around there, say, hey, what's the situation? And it would be people in their 40s that had a traumatic brain injury from a car accident or a fall, something like that. So you don't know. We can't just always wait until the day before we need it to do something from planning standpoint. So you never know, and that's why it's important to have a plan in place long before you may need it. Now, oftentimes I hear this, and I often hear in my mother's Sunday school class, oh, Medicare covers everything towards long-term care, or I've got health insurance, it's through the school or through the retirement system, whatever, it's going to cover all my long-term care services. Some people confuse Medicare and Medicaid, that type of thing. Those are all myths out there. I want to kind of show you how that works here in just a moment, but just know that what we think sometimes is out there, and just because it gets groupthinked and talked about doesn't always come true. And you don't want to rely on something that you may think is true and come to find out when you need it that it's not. So Mutual of Omaha is the preferred provider that we use. It's FREA endorsed, but they are one of the largest providers of long-term care coverage in the nation. And if you think Mutual of Omaha, you used to think Jim Perkins or Marlon Perkins and Jim out there on the tundra chasing down animals, things like that. Very same company that sponsored those Wild Kingdom does that. They gave me some data from last year. The average person that goes on claim is 78. Overwhelmingly, it's women that use long-term care than men, usually because the woman will keep the man at home as long as possible, and then she'll wear herself out and need to go into a facility at that point. The top 3 reasons for care, and again, I experienced this first and foremost with my father, dementia is number 1, then heart disease, and then arthritis surprised me. And when I say heart disease, that's a stroke as well as a heart attack out there as well. But arthritis surprised me quite a bit. So those are the top 3 reasons that people use long-term care policies that they have. And it helps to understand what's out there. If you've got a family history of any of these things, or if you're starting to experience some of that yourself, you can know what is out there. Now, we talked about the different places services are provided. And just because you have long-term care need doesn't mean that you have to go to a nursing home. It didn't make sense to me for you to work all your careers taking care of our kids to have someone else determine how you're going to live your final years. And so people want to be taken care of at home. We kept my father at home as long as possible in an environment he was comfortable in surroundings that were familiar, to where my stepmother could watch him as much as possible. Whenever she physically couldn't take care of him any longer, and he was much more at a risk of falling, getting up in the middle of the night and hurting himself, then we had to make that difficult decision to make the move. But with a good long-term care plan, we were able to make that without worry of any type of financial ruin to my stepmother or to my father. And that's because he had a long-term care policy. It supplemented any out-of-pocket expenses that they had. It allowed them to protect what my father had saved all his life. You know, when you have a need, you can't call the pension board and say, hey, double my pension payment because I have to go into a long-term care facility or I need to have a home health nurse come out to the house. So you oftentimes have to dip into savings and things like that, your 403Bs, your IRAs, things of that nature. With a good plan, it allows you to not have to spend that personal assets that you need to keep your household going, because there may be others in your household that are relying upon you and your income for just keeping general household expenses up. More importantly, with a good plan, it allows you to connect to things that matter the most, like your community, like your family, and the environment that you're comfortable with. A good plan has stay-at-home benefits. Stay-at-home benefits like household preparation for meals, cleaning, personal tasks like getting dressed and bathing you, things like that. A good plan will allow you even to retrofit your home, meaning to widen doors, add a ramp, put some pull bars in the bathroom, give you a bed that can maybe help you transfer, things like that. Just some of those modifications that can keep you at home as opposed to going to a nursing facility. What a phenomenal peace of mind. And many plans allow you to do that. It gives you the ability to have not only some money to do that, but oftentimes there's a coordinator that comes with it that helps you find the people that will do the services to retrofit your home, because we all want to stay at home. And when it comes to staying at home, it's much less expensive too. So I want to show you some of the costs here. I want to show you some costs nationally, and then I'm going to break it down in Florida just a little bit. You can see here it's about $25 an hour for a home health aide to come out to your home to do whatever tasks that you need there. Assisted living facility, about $6,000 a month for a single one-bedroom occupancy. You get up to over $108,000 for a semi-private room, or $123,000 for a private room. Now, this is a national average. It's really a mixed bag in Florida, depending upon where you live and depending upon the situation that you're looking for. So here's what it looks in Florida. I went out and looked at genworth.com. I encourage you to write down genworth.com, genworth.com. Go out and look at their cost of care widget. You can plug in a zip code, you can plug in your city, state, wherever you want to look at, and it will pull up for you and say, here's what a home health aide costs, nursing homes, assisted living, things like that. So last year, whenever we started doing these webinars, I looked at Miami, Tampa, and Pensacola. So I'll give you a little bit of a spread across the state. And in Miami, pretty expensive. I mean, Gretchen, I know you know that it's pretty expensive to live down in Miami. A lot of folks want to be there because it's 85 degrees there today and not 32 or 12 or -9, that kind of stuff, you know. So you've got a lot of folks that move down there. So for a home health aide in Miami, it's about $4,300 a month out there. For an assisted living facility, about the same amount. Nursing home, semi-private room, is $9,000 plus a month. For a nursing home private room, it's over $10,000 a month. Now you see the numbers in red there. This is just the change in the cost in the last 12 months or since last December. So you can see it's really going up in Miami in a lot of cases. In Tampa, you've got a little bit more expensive for a home health aide, maybe a little bit more geography to cover. There's a lot of movement around that way. Assisted living facilities are pretty low, some of the lowest in the state. Nursing home and private room nursing home has gone down compared to last year. What we saw in Texas, and I don't know about this in Florida, is that when COVID came in, a lot of families, if they could move their parent out of a facility and move them in with them, they did that. So there may be some capacity that's out there that's causing the prices to go down. Pensacola, it's up across the board. So depending upon where you live, sometimes mileage, access, things like that, your cost may differ. Florida is on average, in my opinion, a little high compared to the rest of the country, but it is on par with the upper Midwest, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the Northeast. So there's a lot of demand and not a whole lot of nursing homes and semi-private or private rooms available. So you see the cost going up that way. So go check out genworth.com. It'll help you understand what the cost could be in your area and understand what you need to be saving for. We talked about how you pay. Again, we see too many times people say, all right, mom has to go into a nursing facility. Okay, who's going to pay? And you're sitting around the kitchen table at Thanksgiving saying, all right, are you going to pay? Are you going to pay? That kind of stuff like that. Well, mom's got some savings. She's got a 403B, an IRA that she saved up, that kind of thing. Sometimes those funds aren't available when you need them right away because you may have to sell an asset, whether it be a valued piece of family land, may have to be, we've seen some people have to, sell a baby grand piano, something like that. Some of these sales trigger losses if the stock market's down right now. Some of them trigger income taxes. So, I mean, sometimes that first dollar is difficult. So some people will say, well, let's just get Medicaid to pay for this. Medicaid is truly a last resort program for individuals with limited assets. Oftentimes you have to go back multiple years, pay down those assets to qualify, and usually retired educators that have a pension don't qualify because that pension, you don't want to assign it over to somebody else. And then if you do qualify for Medicaid, again, which is very difficult, and you pass away, the state may come back and seek reimbursement from your estate for any of the costs of the benefits that were paid on your behalf. So again, that can be a challenge on Medicaid. I don't want anyone to think that Medicaid is just right there and easy to qualify for. The sad reality is that over 70% of all care is done in someone's home by an informal caregiver who receives no compensation. And so think about this. Remember how I talked about my grandparents and being one of multiple children? Someone had to take off work to go take care of mom, or someone had to have mom move in with you and take care of them. Usually this falls the burden on the females in the family. A daughter or daughter-in-law usually has to do this. And now these days, a lot of those women are working. So they're working not only to provide for their family now, but they're working to build a future retirement as well. So this impacts women much harder than men, to the tune of over $300,000 of earning potential in their lifetime. And think about it from your perspective. All of you are educators, retired educators now. If you had to quit your job 10 years before you anticipated, not only does that take 10 years out of your income to take care of your family, put your kids through college, that shortens your pension contribution by 10 years. It lowers what your retirement years are going to look like. So it's very important to understand that lack of planning doesn't just impact you who receives the care. It impacts the entire family and the generations beyond that. It can put not only financial strain, it can put marital strain, then holidays, all things like that become very difficult. And so I wanted to point these numbers out from a reality standpoint that most of the time we don't prepare. But when we don't prepare, that burden falls on many other individuals within our family. So let's talk about Medicare, because again, as we talked about the misconception that Medicare pays for everything, how do they pay for long-term care? So grab your pen and pencil again. I want you to write these numbers down. I want you to write down 3 and inpatient. Medicare will pay for some long-term care after a 3-day hospital inpatient stay. That's so important. 3 days inpatient stay. I'm going to show you why in a moment. It must be at a skilled nursing care facility, not at your home. Medicare will pay 100% of the first 20 days. So for those first 20 days, you're getting rehabbed back on your feet. Let's just say you had a fall. Say we had a freak ice storm and you had a fall coming out of church and broke your hip, and you now have to have surgery and then skilled nursing care after that. Medicare pays the first 100% for the first 20 days. After that, you're responsible for a $200 copay or co-insurance payment every day up to 100 days. At 100 days, Medicare stops paying altogether. Doesn't matter if you're still needing skilled care, doesn't matter what your situation, Medicare stops and you're 100% responsible from that point on. Now, if you remember back in the early slides, I showed you that almost 50% of all people who go into a nursing home stay less than 50 days. It's because Medicare stops paying. Not because they passed away or they got well. It's because Medicare stopped paying and they couldn't afford to be there. So when we talk about this inpatient hospital stay, that is the most crucial language in all of the Medicare conversation when it comes to care. Simply because Medicare classifies certain procedures as either inpatient stay or observation status, which is an outpatient category. If you have a surgery, a fall, an accident, something that requires you to stay in the hospital, if it's 3 days and it's qualified as an inpatient stay, that then triggers the Medicare benefits like I mentioned before, where they pay for 100% of the first 20 days. You have a co-insurance clause for the remaining 100 days and they stop paying. However, if Medicare says it's just observation status and you're in an outpatient situation, Medicare pays 0. Medicare only has to classify a procedure as inpatient or outpatient. So you could actually be in a hospital 3 days, 3 nights, stay there, receive the great care. Medicare covers all your treatment and your care while you're in the hospital. And then when you're discharged, if you are an outpatient, you don't get any of those Medicare benefits for your rehabilitation. We've had individuals who have gone in for one procedure on the left knee many years ago. That was an inpatient surgery and got their Medicare benefits. Medicare changes the billing codes. They do it on the right knee. They're an outpatient. They still spent 3 nights in the hospital, but they're an outpatient category. There's no rehabilitation coverage. This is how Medicare cuts coverage without cutting treatment costs, without cutting how they provide care. They don't provide any of the aftercare after the fact. So that's a situation you need to be prepared for. We know that Medicare won't pay past 100 days, regardless of what's going on. And then depending upon what your injury or your illness was or what happened to you, they may not pay, even if you spent time in the hospital, if it was an outpatient status situation. Now, what if you don't get better, or you get better before those 20 days are up, something like that? As soon as the nursing facility determines that you're no longer receiving skilled care, meaning that you've either gotten better or you're not going to get better, Medicare stops paying altogether. So in the case of my father, the final straw that pushed him into a full-time nursing facility, he had a stroke about Thanksgiving of 19, I guess it was. Stroke in 18, or Thanksgiving of 2018. And he spent a week and a half in the hospital and was discharged to a rehabilitation hospital. That rehabilitation hospital, Medicare did pick up 20 days, or a little less than that, to help him try to get back on his feet, learn to feed himself, and things like that. When he was determined by the doctor he was not going to get any better, Medicare says you can no longer stay in this facility. You must go to some other type of facility, and we're not going to pay anymore. That was what triggered the fact that he was not going to get any better. So again, Medicare makes that determination, and there's no longer any payment, regardless of what the length of stay in the hospital was, anything like that at all. So it's important to understand that's why Medicare is not really a good option, or really an option for any type of long-term care. Now, some people say, I don't know if I'm ever going to need long-term care, or I don't know if I'm going to qualify for long-term care. Are there other options out there? There are a couple of other unique ways that you can provide for long-term care without a long-term care policy. One of them, depending upon if you have a life insurance policy that's probably been around in the last 20, 25 years, most policies have a free provision inside of them that allows you to use a portion of the face amount for long-term care situations. So you have a $200,000 face amount on your life insurance policy. It will allow you to use 50% up to $100,000 or a certain dollar amount that you can use before you pass away for long-term care. Doesn't change anything from the company's perspective, because when you pass away, they're just going to pay you the balance. The only thing you want to watch out for this in a life insurance policy, most of them restrict it to just nursing home facilities, not to any type of home health care. The other option, and this is an option that I have because my father's dementia makes it difficult for me to qualify based on family history, is an FREA endorsed tax deferred asset protection plan that allows you to have your money grow and go towards long-term care if you need it without any penalty, or if you're already starting to pull money out of it and you have to go to a long-term care facility, it will double your payments. So it gives you peace of mind knowing that if I don't need my long-term care coverage, I've got this money just growing in an account that I can use for whatever I want to. But if I need long-term care coverage, it's got a provision to pay me more. I can get more money out without any penalty, things like that. Both of those are strategies if you have health issues or don't know if you're going to qualify for long-term care or buy something you may never use. Other people, as you get closer to your 70 or 72, you start to have to pull out required minimum distributions out of any 403Bs or IRAs. Again, it can, you're going to have to use those monies anyway and pull them out. Some people will use that for their long-term care premiums. Others have access to a health savings account. If you still have some active income or earned income, you can put money into that tax-free. You can use that money to purchase tax-free a long-term care plan. The federal government believes so strongly in long-term care, they're making that a tax advantage plan that way. And then finally, some people, because it's got the least medical requirements qualifying to receive, they'll take out a large lump sum cancer, heart attack, or stroke policy that just gives you a lump sum of money up to $50,000 that you can use towards your care before something else happens. So those are some unique ways that you can pay for it as well. All right, we've talked about a lot of different things, so please drop your questions in the chat and the Q&A. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment and answer a few questions we go through here. Just a couple of quick reminders. We have one last webinar coming up on December 7th. We're going to jump in to all of the holiday discounts, all of the travel, shopping, everything that comes to you free as part of your FREA membership in our passport program. So make sure you watch out for that. Be on the lookout for that. And for those of you who join us, this would be an excellent time. And Gretchen talked about using your Facebook pages, using your email blast to invite future members or potential members. Let them know about this program. This will be the amount that they will save is more than what they would pay in FREA dues and local dues to cover any of those dues. They're going to save more than that in the passport program, and it's absolutely free as part of your FREA membership. Encourage them to come learn about that going forward. All right, again, tell people that you know. I guarantee there's not anybody on this call today that doesn't have someone that they worked with that's not a member of FREA, that's not a member of your local unit. Get them involved, introduce them to these webinars so that they can learn about important topics, but more importantly, learn about their association that's fighting to maintain their benefits. The membership in FREA is the best investment that you have to protect your largest asset, and that's your pension program. So I encourage you to do that. All right, any questions out there, feel free to drop them into chat or Q&A. If you want information about stuff we've talked about today, long-term care plans, the tax-deferred asset protection plan, cancer, heart attack, and stroke, anything like that, take your smartphone, open up your camera feature, and hover over that QR code. A little box will pop up. You can hit your finger on that, fill out a couple of pieces of information. It comes back to me, and someone will contact you right away. If you're on your smartphone, if you're on a laptop and you can't do that, you can simply email me at john.green@amba.info, info, and I would be glad to answer questions, get you in contact with someone who could down there. So, all right. Okay, let's see if there's anything else that we have out there. Any other questions that are available to you? I'll make sure that everyone gets Gretchen's email address. We'll put that in the chat for all members to see out there. And is there anything else that we're missing that you want to share with your members before we sign off? I'll stay on and answer any questions.
I would just like to relay, the bulletin is going to come out probably during Thanksgiving week. And on there, it says the FREA office is closed the week of Thanksgiving. So I want to make sure everybody knows that the office will be closed the week of Thanksgiving. If you want anything from us, please contact us tomorrow or the next day, because Diane and I are not going to be there. We will be back on the 28th, if that's the Monday afterward, and would be happy to take care of you. Thank you, John. That was a great presentation. Gretchen, it was amazing. I need to obviously work on my website, because yours is putting it to shame. And I think your emails are amazing. So I'm going to also plagiarize the heck out of those. Thank you very much for the inspiration. And that's all I have, John. Thank you, everybody. We really enjoy having you here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I will stay on and answer any questions if anybody has them, but have a tremendous rest of your week. And we will talk to you after Thanksgiving. Have a tremendously great Thanksgiving day with you and your family. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.